Welcome back to the Lamb Fab channel. Today we're going to do an update on the Viper build. I'm going to tell you what's been going on the last couple weeks. I'm going to show you some awesome new parts that have come in for the car, and we're going to talk about the plan for this car. So stick around and let's get started. So in the last episode, we got the BC Racing coilovers put on. We addressed the steering rack problem with the solid rack and pinion bushings and fixed the massive amount of play that was in the front end. And the next step was getting this car aligned. Now, I asked around on some of the Viper clubs. I talked to some of the experts in the area and was recommended a shop called Forza Motorsports here in Arizona. Now, I made an appointment for these guys. I did not have a whole lot of expectations because, to tell you the truth, I haven't had great experiences with alignment shops. I personally know how to do alignments. I've aligned cars quite a bit in the past, but finding a good tech that knows their equipment, knows what does what on alignments, and can even honestly carry a conversation about what kind of specs are going to affect your car and which way is hard to find. So I asked around on some of the Viper clubs, and the first thing I was looking for was just a shop that could even get the car on the rack, because this thing is so low now. I mean, you can see that the front end, I can't even put my boot under the lip of the front bumper. I mean, we've got like 2 inches of clearance. This thing is slammed, and I didn't want it damaged, so found Forza through Cords Racing. Joe Cords recommended them, and I respect his opinion a lot, so I gave them a shout. And those guys were absolutely amazing. So I took the car over there. Right away, they're right on time, actually early with my appointment. I didn't have to wait. And the guys were all set up with blocks and wood and everything to get the car on the rack. And they took 3 guys and let me drive the car onto the rack, and they all 3 guided me and watched every single low spot on the car to make sure no damage was done getting it on. And when I took it off the rack, they did the same thing. So I was really impressed with that. They were prepared for a low car, and they knew how to do it and got that done with no problems. So the next thing was they had me get out of the car, and we discussed what I wanted out of the car. Not only did we discuss how I wanted it to perform, what kind of specs I was looking for, we also discussed how I wanted it to look, which was unique. You never talk about that with alignment shops. We also discussed tire rub issues because the car is so low. And we came up with some specs to shoot for with what we had. So they first set the car one time, then on their extremely long lift, they rolled the car back. The lift is almost twice the length of this car, so they were able to roll it all the way back to unload the suspension, roll it all the way back forward, and then they tweaked it one more time. So they got it all into the specs we had discussed. Then they called me out there to take a look at it. Yes, they actually let me be in the show in the shop with them, which is amazing too, because most shops don't want you to see what they're doing and don't want you around. Most of the time, it's because they're fudging with the numbers on the screen to get the little green light to pop up, so it looks like it's aligned. But anyway, they had me look at the car to make sure I was happy with the way it looked, and then they put me in the car. And they raised the car up, and they aligned it a 3rd time. So first time they did the major adjustments. The second time they unloaded the suspension and then tweaked it just a little bit more. And then the 3rd time, they're actually aligning the car with my weight in it, which is amazing. I've never had any kind of alignment shop align a car with me in the car, and they wanted to do that to make sure everything was perfect with me driving the car, which is the level of detail they were showing me was just incredible. And it did change with my weight in the car. It did change the alignment just a tiny bit. So they tweaked it so the steering wheel was perfectly straight. They tweaked it so everything was in spec with me in the car. So now it'll perform absolutely flawlessly, which it did while driving down the road. So I told them I'm not going to track this car. I don't intend to right now, but I wanted a good performance, responsive feel. But my biggest thing was getting rid of that wandering on the road. And so we put a little bit more caster in it. We went to 2 degrees negative camber, partly for the tire rubbing issues, which it doesn't rub at all right now. And they made it even front to rear with the camber. And they did the extra caster just so it would want to track straight. And then they set the toe to spec and everything came out beautiful. So the ride home was absolutely, it was completely a night and day different car. Even from just changing the bushings and the shocks, driving it there, I thought it was a lot better. Coming home with it aligned after these guys did their magic on it, the car's just a different machine. It drives so much better. The irregular surfaces on the freeways, it doesn't pull around, it doesn't wander, it's tight. It feels, I don't know how to describe it. It feels more, it gives you a lot more confidence in the driver's seat when you're coming into a corner. And we'll do more review on how it drives later with all the parts that we put on this car to give you kind of an idea of what it was before and what it is now. But anyway, they gave me a printout of the sheet, and again, they made their own custom specs for my car, not just off of what Dodge says it should be. They actually created the specs for my application with it being lowered and what I was going to intend to do with it. And I'm very happy with those guys. So hit them up, Forza, and they're in Tempe, Arizona. And those guys are absolutely amazing. They do all kinds of alignments, lifted trucks, modified cars. They do sports cars. They do exotics. They do all kinds of specialty alignments and just regular alignments too. So hit those guys up. I'll never use another shop for alignment other than those guys. So anyway, let's go over here. We got some really cool parts in. So here's what I've put together to attempt to build my own sway bar links. So I wanted to make sure that my sway bar links are in top condition, and the ones that are on it, the boots are torn. They're getting really hard to find for the first gen Vipers. You can find used ones and stuff, and there's some really expensive aftermarket adjustable ones, which I didn't feel that I really needed. So I did the next best thing, and I bought parts to build my own. So I've just got some DOM tubing right here that I'm going to weld these fine thread 3/8 bungs into with the TIG, and then I can thread these guys, which are they're a ball stud mount. So it's got a ball, and they're weatherproof, and they have grease inside of them, so they got a nice boot on them and stuff for weather resistance. So that's going to be for the front. And then out back I found these adjustable links with a nut on them, and these are right and left threads, so you don't have to disassemble the car to adjust them. These ones I could not find in left-hand thread, so they're all right-hand threads. So I will have, but it's not that big a deal because they're a stud, so I can still loosen them up and then adjust one end and the other end out and then just tighten it back up, so that won't be that big a deal. But anyway, this is what we're going to do for the front and rear sway bar links. I'm not going to put part numbers for these yet, just because this is experimental. I don't know how this is going to work. I don't even know if these are going to fit yet, so I still got a ways to go, but I thought I'd show you what's going through my head with this process. So these are going to be pretty cool. But over here we've got something a lot more exciting. So we are getting closer to the end of basically the steering, suspension, and chassis modifications. So coming up is going to be the exciting stuff, guys. This is going to be the start. So these I've been looking for heads for this car, and anyone that knows Vipers knows how expensive the Viper tax is for heads. And I happened upon a gentleman, his name is Travis, and he unfortunately spun a rod on his TNT Motorsports built Viper motor. And unfortunately, he decided to part that motor out, and he had these fresh, ported, polished cylinder heads with bigger valves that have been completely worked over. And he was kind enough to give me the opportunity to purchase these things, and they are absolutely awesome. They are used, but he did send them out to a machine shop, had them checked for me. They put new springs on them. It's got double springs. And you can see, I don't know if you guys have seen inside a Viper port, but these things are just completely worked over. Huge difference from the stock terrible castings on these Gen 1 heads. We got double springs. So when I go to put this motor together, this is going to be the starting foundation for making some decent power. So, and in the plans for this car, I am going twin turbo. I have finally decided that that's it. My life goal was to have a twin turbo Viper, and I now have a Gen 1 Viper. And my whole life goal was to have a kind of quasi original looking Gen 1 with 2 turbos on it, making decent power. So I don't want a race car. I'm not going to go for any records. I'm not going to be making Calvo numbers. I'm looking to build a car myself and make decent street power and have a lot of fun with it. So and I want to apply some of the modern technology to it. And these heads are really going to help me get there. So this was a huge step, and big thanks to Travis out of Washington for letting me buy these from him, because they are awesome. So those are very exciting, guys. That's going to be the start of the built engine for this car. The most exciting thing I have to show you today is what's going to finish off the chassis. Now, these guys came way faster than I thought they were, and there's actually 5 boxes. I just put 3 of them here because the other side is the same, but these are the Brembo brakes for this car. Now it's one thing if you can go fast, but if you can't stop, and everyone's seen the crashes of these Gen 1 Vipers because of their terrible brake bias, and they put all the braking to the front, and the rear doesn't do much, and they just don't stop very good. So one of the biggest things for me is, what's the point of making gobs of power if you can't stop it safely and drive the car home safely? So one of the biggest investments I'm making on this car is the braking. So let's take these out of the box. I'm going to let you guys see me pull these. I already started opening this one. I got too excited and I couldn't wait, so I started opening this one, but I haven't unwrapped it yet. So I'm going to let you guys come along with me and share my excitement for these things. These things are going to be wild. So let's take a look. So box number 1 is the least exciting box. We're going to progressively get more exciting here, guys, so bear with me. But when you change over to big brakes on the rear of a 1st and 2nd gen Viper, most aftermarket brakes do not have a provision for an emergency brake or a parking brake. So what you have to do is add basically a parking brake. So we have right here is going to be our new parking brake. Now, the funny thing is the new parking brake caliper is almost as big as the rear caliper that is factory on a Gen 1, which is just hilarious. So these are going to be our Brembo parking brake calipers that will hook up to the parking brake cable, and we will have a functioning hand parking brake. Let's see what we've got here. Here is a bracket for these. Oh, that's wild. All billet aluminum machined parking brake bracket. So even the parking brake is just super, super cool. These are aluminum and they're anodized black. And the parking brake calipers are black too, to kind of make them disappear. So that's that. Let's see what else we have. bracket for the other side. And this is going to be the hardware, and this is the other caliper. So that's it in this box, is the basically all the provisions for a functioning parking brake. Because what good is a high-performance Viper if you look cool pulling up and you park it in a parking lot and it rolls away and crashes? So that would not be good. So that's why we have a working parking brake. Let's slide that aside. And now let's look at these bigger boxes. Alright guys, now the fun part starts. So I've shown you the heads, I've shown you my sway bar stuff, looked at the parking brake. Now let's check these things out. So we've got, these are for the right side of the car. So one of these is going to be the front, one's going to be the back. Oh, this is exciting. I'm going to open this one too. Unboxing Brembos, guys. This is like adult Christmas morning for me. All right, let's see if we can get these out of here. Look at that. That's beautiful. We got so much excitement here. So what do we have? This is, I'm sure this is the rotor. We've got foam packed rotors. Look at this, guys. Holy cow. Oh, these are awesome. Let's get these out here and take a look. So cool. Do not tighten disc hardware further. Okay. Wow, those are drilled and vented rotors. It says do not tighten further. What if one of them is loose? That I will have to contact them on, because that one is definitely loose. But man, those are cool. I wonder what that does. Got a little scan for a web page thing, so I'll have to check that out. So those are our new rotors. I don't know if these are front or rears. Alright, now we've got here, oh, we've got our hardware. So a couple of washers. We've got stainless braided vehicle specific DOT approved brake lines. And we have a cool guy brake. I bet that's for bleeding the caliper, bleeding them. And there's our billet aluminum brake caliper mounting bracket. Wow, that is beefy. Solid aluminum, threaded. Alright guys, this is some really high quality looking stuff, but this is what we want to see right here. Oh, these are 4 pieces, so this is the rear caliper. Look at those. Wow. The finish on them is really nice. Powder coat. Looks like these you can change the pads on the car by sliding the 2 pins out. You can lift the pads out the top without pulling the caliper off, so that's pretty cool. Wow. Those are awesome. Alright guys, that's the rears. So we got rotors, hardware, lines, calipers. Let's get this out of the way. those are the rears. I'm excited to see what the fronts look like. Oh, definitely a weight difference. Alright, so this is going to be the front rotors. Which look basically the same as the rears. Those are nice. See, that's loose too. Some of them are loose and some of them are tight. I'm gonna have to ask them about that because maybe it's for heat expansion or something, but to me, all these should be tight. There's a couple loose ones on that. Wow, guys, these are awesome. Look at the packaging on a set of brakes. Yes, I know they're expensive, but this is cool. I mean, you get pokey foam padding for your rotors. I mean, that's awesome. The presentation is, I guess when you buy a set of Brembo brakes and they show up at your door, they know you're going to be as excited as I am, so they just make the presentation that much cooler, so it makes it even more like Christmas morning for a little kid. Front bolts, front brake line. Let's look at this front. Check that out. It's a very simple bracket. Basically converting it from flange mount to a radial mount, I believe is what they call that. Alright guys, this is the moment I have been waiting for. Oh, look at that monster. Wow. Look at that 6-piston caliper. Jeez, the pads are huge. Guys, these are impressive. The thickness of the pads are pretty wild. Those will probably have pretty good life. Get this pad to slide over. There we go. 6 pistons, giant pads. Look at those beauties. Wow. 2 bleeders. You can bleed both sides. Alright. There is a factory caliper and there is a Brembo 6-piston. Oh, that's exciting. Not only are these going to work amazing, but those are going to look absolutely incredible inside the black wheels. It'll just blow up inside that wheel. Lifelong goal of building a twin turbo Viper is coming true. This is going to take me a little bit, so you'll have to bear with me. Now, everything I usually get takes forever, especially at post-COVID. Everything you order, they use COVID as an excuse and it's retarded, but Brembo does not. Now, I ordered these through Buy Brakes, and the guys there were awesome. They helped me out with the templates that I showed you guys in the how to measure video, and you know, explained all the various part numbers and differences, and very good guys to deal with. And these brakes showed up in 1 week from the day that ordered them. He said they had to build them special for this car, but I was thoroughly impressed that I was able to get a custom set of brakes in 1 week. So that's pretty darn cool. So the reason I'm not putting these on in this video, because believe it or not, it's killing me not to put these on right now, but the car is now so low that I cannot get my jack under it to get it on to the 2-post lift. You saw the process it took me last time to get it on the lift, and now that everything's settled and I've got the coilovers adjusted all the way down, It is very, very difficult and pretty sketchy to get that thing on the 2-post lift without damaging it. And I lucked out a couple of times and got very close using blocks and stuff to get it on and off the lift. So what I've done is I've invested in a set of race ramps that are made for a 2-post lift. This car is going to be going on and off that lift a whole lot. So I've ordered those so I can drive the car up on the lift or onto these ramps and pull the center section out and then slide the arms under without causing any damage to the car, which blocks of wood and stuff is sketchy at best. So anyway, guys, I have rambled enough. This is the excitement here. This is what's coming to the channel. We've got all kinds of cool stuff coming. I just ordered a 1200 horsepower capable clutch. We're gonna test that guy. I ordered, your throwout bearing and slave cylinder and pilot bearing, so I got to replace those. So I'll be doing a clutch job on the car on the channel, so you guys can see what it takes to do that yourself, to pull the transmission and do a new clutch. We are going to be pulling the intake manifold off next, because with these cylinder heads that I've gotten, those flow so much that stock intake is not going to cut it. So I found a place that I'm going to work with and send that intake off to be extrude honed. So basically the process of that is they basically are port matching it, and they send a abrasive clay like media. It's not a liquid, it's like a thick putty stuff with abrasive in it, and they use a hydraulic ram to push it through the intake. And what it does is it basically cuts out the inside of the intake to the spec that you give them, so all the air flows perfectly smooth through that intake. So I'm going to have that done. We're going to put these heads on, but I think the bottom end on this car is going to get built. I've decided that I wanted to do a stock bottom end build to see what this car was capable of, but as I build this car, I'm realizing more and more how rare parts are, how expensive parts are, and how difficult they are to come by. So the last thing I want to do, although I'd really love to see if I could break 1,000 horse to the wheels with a stock bottom end, which I know I could. I'm very confident that I could. I'm just scared that if something was not 100% and something let go, I would ruin one of those heads. That would make me cry if I sent a piston into one of those heads, because those are just eye candy, and they are very, very hard to come by, and that would ruin my year. So I'm thinking that I'm going to slow down a little bit. I'm going to do some rods and pistons in the bottom end. Then we're going to top it off with these heads and a extrude ported intake, ported throttle bodies, or high flow throttle bodies, I should say. And then we'll get into engine management side of it and fuel. And finally, we're going to do twin turbos. So all this is coming to the channel. I'm going to build the twin turbo setup myself right here on this channel. I'm going to build every part of this car on this channel, except for the machine work on the engine. I'm going to, because of the expense of the parts, I'm going to rely on experts for putting that engine together. This is not like a 5.3 LS that you throw together and if it pops you go, oh well, and get another one. The Viper Gen 1 stuff is just so hard to come by, and there's not that many available, and ruining one would just be catastrophic. So anyway, guys, I have rambled on enough today. I'm super excited for this build. I hope you guys are seeing the level we're going to with this one, and I hope you're excited about some of these parts and seeing them go on this project. Please like and subscribe down below. Drop a comment, let me know what you think of this project and where you want to see it go. I love to hear suggestions and wisdom from other people, and I know a lot of you Viper guys know a lot more than I do about these cars, so love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, you guys have a great day and take care.